Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. As you can tell from the title and the thumbnail, this is the Quintessential Summer book tag, and it's a new to me book tag, and I feel like it's a great way to reflect on the summer as we're starting to get into fall and Halloween months. So we're getting into this, and I'm wearing my Conway shirt, one of my Conway shirts, so I feel like it's fitting summer. Um, It's been a long day. It's been a long weekend. Too much has happened. um, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 prompts. So I'm not gonna try to make this go quickly, but I'm not gonna try to prolong it either. So, with all of that said, let's get into this book tag. Now, again, 10 prompts. The first one is iced drink, a refreshing book. For me, that was Under the Oak Tree by Suji Kim. And a large part of why I chose this for this prompt was because I feel like oftentimes we either get, when it comes to female characters, we either get the soft, domestic, girly, which perfectly fine. I'm fine with either of these options. So either we get soft, domestic type girly, Snow White type, Cinderella type, where which I love. I love Snow White. I love Cinderella, and I'm talking about the original animated and the live action for Cinderella. We're ignoring the live action for Snow White. Um, so where it's kind of cozy, fantasy, and they're just doing their thing. They're not trying to be badass leaders. They're leaders in their own right, but they're not trying to be badass leaders. So either we get that, or we get the badass female feminine lead who's kicking down doors and killing her enemies and doing the whole alphabet of stuff to be a badass leader. Again, neither of these are wrong, but I feel like in both of these are good and we need both kinds of representation. But I feel like a lot we either get one or the other. We don't get anything in between. And I feel like that's where Under the Oak Tree really comes in very well, where we get that nice in between, where Maxie is trying to be a leader, trying to be more confident. Excuse me, trying to be more confident in herself, but she's still very much, at least from what we know of her, she's still very much in that softer lane. She's not Princess Agnes. Um, she's in the softer lane, but she's still trying to gain her confidence and still be a good leader in her own rights. So, yeah, in Under the Oak Tree, we're following Maxie, or Lady Maximilian, who is the daughter of the Duke Croissant, but she's rarely allowed outside because of her stutter, and they're afraid that her stutter will tarnish her family name. She's married to Sir Rifton, who's a world-born knight. And one, he's caught up in her father's schemes, and two, he's climbed the ranks pretty quickly. And so they get married, they have a really disastrous wedding night, and then the morning after, he's off to war, and he's off in a 3-year battle. And when he comes back, she's kind of surprised that he still wants her, because there were some rumors that he might have divorced her to marry Princess Agnes. So that's what this is about, and honestly, at this point, I have volume 3. I don't know if I've read it yet, but I have volume 3 at this point, and I absolutely love this series. And again, this is I think this is a really refreshing balance of the middle part. It's that refreshing middle part. It's the refreshing balance. I'm saying refreshing so much, it's just not a sound word. But it's that really nice middle ground between the two, where it's she doesn't have to be a badass warrior to be a good leader. She can still be soft and kind to be a good leader, but she's trying to be more confident and to be able to lead properly. So, Under the Oak Tree by C.G. Kim, really great book, really great series. So the second prompt is cotton candy. Jeez, I love it when my computer goes to sleep. Right when I'm trying to read the prompt. The second prompt is cotton candy, a book that was light and fluffy. That was fluffy and sweet. I chose Perks of Being a Restless Heroine. Volume 1, I only had the first two volumes. When I was at Barnes & Noble, I said I was going to try to look for this, but I didn't. I was going to try to look for volume 3. Anyway, not a huge deal. But honestly, I love this. It was sweet, it was light, it was fluffy, and it was a perfect kind of cozy fantasy. I don't know if it's going to continue being cozy fantasy, but it was like perfect cozy fantasy start. And then this, to just read the description because I'm feeling kind of busy. Tutorial starts. From cooking to alchemy to even brewing tea, Elliot Schwartland is a certifiable child prodigy thanks to her secret weapon. She's a transmedicator. Having purchased an insurance package at the moment of her untimely end, Elliot has the perks of a top-tier support system and item shop to fall back on. And in a world of notoriously brutal time-loop novel, she's going to need all the help she can get. Because with a hero slated for an early death, Ayet might just have to become an S-class heroine herself. Absolutely love the story. And again, I don't know like what the other volumes are like, and I would have to like reread volume 2. But I absolutely love that series. So the next prompt is Sunglasses, a dark book. For this one, I chose Reversing Me Home by Eleanor Shearer because I feel like this is really good summer book, but at the same time, it is very dark and deals with some very heavy topics. And to review the description, also for this one, if this sounds interesting to you, look into the trigger warnings as needed because again, there are some very heavy topics in this. But to give you the description, research begins with an ending. The master of the Providence plantation in Barbados gathers his slaves and announces that the king has decided to end slavery. As of the following day, the Emancipation Act of 1834 will come into effect. The cries of joy fall silent when he announces that they are no longer slaves. They are now his apprentices. No one can leave. They must work for him for another 6 years. Freedom is just another name for the life that they have always lived. So Rachel runs. Away from Providence, she begins a desperate search to find her children, the 5 who survived birth and were sold. Are any of them still alive? Rachel has to know. The grueling, dangerous journey takes her away from Barbados, deep into the forest of British Guiana, and finally across the sea to Trinidad. She is driven on by the certainty that a mother cannot truly be free without knowing what has become of her children, even if the answer is more than she can bear. Their story, these stories are these these words. It's been a long day, you guys. These are stories of Mary Grace, Micah, Thomas Augustus, Cherry Jane, and Mercy. But above all, this is the story of Rachel and the extraordinary lengths to which a mother will go to find her children and her freedom. So again, very heart-wrenching topics, very heavy topics. So go into it with trigger warnings and look at the trigger warnings. Story graph is usually pretty good about having a good set of trigger warnings, content warnings. So, and if you have topics that if like I know on the story graph you can mark what topics you're not as interested in reading, and you can look up the book and it'll have like a little triangle saying this has topics here you marked as not interested in reading or something to that effect. But be aware, this is very heavy, so it does fit pretty well under this prompt. So go into it with some trigger warnings. Also continue to stay hydrated, guys. So the next prompt is Picnic on a Rainy Day, a sad book. But for this one, it's like, ooh, I chose a specific one. I'll be right back. Because for this one, I was like, wait a second, like the whole series wasn't sad, and I didn't leave the series feeling sad, except for like one plot point. So I was just like, I need to grab that specific volume since that's the one I mentioned. And that is Heaven Official's Lesson, Volume 4. If you know, you know. My poor baby went past her. Like, oh boy. poor baby Winchester. If you know, you know. I'm not going to talk too much about Volume 4 specifically because, like, I talked about the series a lot, but for the sake of this book tag and assuming that this might be an introduction to some people to my channel, Heaven Official's Blessing follows Julien, who has ascended to the heavens, ascended to Godhood for the third time, and basically he has to start to repaying certain debts. So he starts working on Earth to slow and ruin ghosts and demons, and then he comes across Xiang, like this mysterious possible human. So that's what the series is about. Really enjoyable series. I absolutely love it. I will not shut up about it ever. If I have a chance to talk about it, I will talk about it. So the next prompt is Sand, a book that irritated you. And for me, it was more so a series. There were a few books that I thought of, but because there was a series and then there was another book, both by the same author. I've talked about it before on this channel. Um, but with the other book by the same author, I do mention it twice in later prompts. So I decided to go with the series, and it's the Villain series by Serena and Valentino. Now, part of this is on me. Part of this is on me. I will acknowledge that. And in the sense of, I went into it with certain expectations that were not met. And said expectation was that this was a series of interconnected standalones. Interconnected in the sense that it was all Disney, and depending on the time frame, depending on the time that it took place, like the setting, year, century that it took place, certain villains could know each other. So like interconnected standalones. And so that was expectation one. Expectation two was that it would be more so backstories about the villains, and not necessarily like which the first book. First of all, I think about the Evil Queen that handles, but once you hit book two, it's like the Beast, I think, and it's like the Beast wasn't really the villain, an anti-hero perhaps, but not the villain, and like not a very good character, but like not necessarily the villain of Beauty and the Beast. And the third book I think was Ursula, and by like you sort of get it, like I said, you sort of get the backstory for the Beast, but we already had that in the animated movie. And then Ursula, you get some of the backstory, but a large part of it is just in turn by book three. You sort of get it in book two, but by book three you start to realize that there's an overarching plot here. So it's like it kind of fell short halfway through book two and definitely in book three, where it's like, okay, we're not getting backstories about the villains and it's not standalones. And like that's something that like kind of bounced me off because it's in a similar vein, the Disney Twisted Tale series, where it's like those like hit the mark just right because it's like it's not trying to rework or be canon to the stories, and a lot of Disney published books, like the Disney Villains series by Serena Valentino, like Raising the Horseman by Serena Valentino, like the Disney Twisted Tales. None of these are meant to be canon to their respective movies, and it's one of those things where it's like you can headcanon it, you can think it's canon in your own mind, in your own head, and in your own theories, but that doesn't necessarily make it actually canon in the Disney canon, in Disney quote unquote law of their movies and their stories. So it's like, and I think that's what the Disney Villain series was trying to do. It was trying to do like somewhat canon stories for these villains, and it's like some of these villains wouldn't really be interacting. Like maybe Ursula and Hades would interact a little bit, but even that feels a little bit far-fetched. At most, Ursula would interact with Poseidon, and maybe the Evil Queen would interact with Evil Stepmother or Lady Tremaine. Maybe there would be interactions with Mother Gothel, but it's like it was trying to do too much to tie all these stories together, which on the one hand I enjoy the fan theories that tie the Disney movies together, but at the same time it's like like some of them are a little bit far-fetched in my opinion. like Elsa and Anna and Tarzan being siblings. That one, I like that. I like that theory, but at the same time, it is a bit far fetched in my opinion. And another one is Mother Gothel being the evil queen. That one's far fetched in my opinion, just because the evil queen does die at the end of the movie. If you watch the vultures' reaction after the evil queen falls. Anyway, so it's like just that, and I was like, I feel like I was trying too hard to create backstories that would be canon, or a story that would be considered canon to Disney and to the story. So I was just like, I felt like I was trying too hard. Whereas like the Disney Twisted Tales, it's like, yeah, we know what we are. We're not going past that. So it's like, yeah. Anyway, and it's like the thing is, slight spoiler for book two, um, the Beast Within, I think it's called. The way, like Beast, like the thing is again, Beast is an anti-hero at best. And at worst, he's not the villain of the story. The villain of the story is clearly Gaston. And is the Beast a hero? Not really. Belle is the hero of the story. Beast isn't necessarily the hero. And like the thing is like this isn't something that would actually happen in the movie, but like again, slight spoiler. The Beast tries to kill Belle, and it's like, yeah, he's an asshole, but like, especially at the beginning of the story, but like, he never tries to actively kill Belle. So that's where it's like, you know, it's like it was annoying. Like I understand the intent behind the series, which I can appreciate, but it was just annoying because I feel like it was one trying too much, two my expectations, and how it was kind of. I think part of it was the marketing too, because it was like, oh, these are the villain's origin stories. I distinctly remember that where it's like, no, it's not about, like, once you get to book three, it's not about the villain's origin stories, it's about the three sisters who are annoying as fuck. Like it was just getting to a point where it's like, okay, just kill them off already, please. Kill them off. So, with all that said, I'm going to move on to the next one because I'm really like talking about this one. But the next prompt is summer blockbuster favorite book to screen adaptation. Now there are a few. The main one that I'm going to go with is Lord of the Rings, and I felt like showing off this edition again because I don't want to show off this edition very much. And it's the one with like the red case. So yeah. And Lord of the Rings, you're following Frodo, who basically takes the ring on a journey to Erebor. It's sort of like a sequel. It's a pseudo sequel to The Hobbit. It's not intended to be a sequel to The Hobbit, but it sort of is, sort of isn't. So it's its own story, but it's in the same mode. So you're following Frodo, who basically takes the One Ring on a quest to destroy the One Ring of Sauron. So that's what this is about. Absolutely love this story so much, and I love this edition. This one is remaining untouched. So it is for display purposes only. So the next prompt is Dropped Ice Cream, a book you were anticipating but it wasn't good. Raising the Horseman by Serena Valentino. I have beat this horse. I'm basically beating a dead horse with this. Pun intended. But it's just like I was kind of anticipating this because, like I've mentioned before on my channel and other book tags where I talk about this, I love the Disney Sleepy Hollow. I love the Disney's Legend of Cabal Crane. It is one of my favorites. And the fact that Bing Crosby narrates it, like chef's kiss. Bing Crosby could have his own Holiday Inn. He could have had his own Holiday Inn. Anyway, I digress. So, like, I love the Disney Legend of Ichabod Crane Sleepy Hollow. And so when I heard that there was going to be a book based specifically on that, it was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is right up my alley. Disney, Sleepy Hollow, Bing Crosby. Even though Bing Crosby, it doesn't really make a difference. But it's like, and it's like, dual timeline, historical fiction, right up my alley. Yeah. You know? And I was really upset because I really wanted to like it. And I was really looking forward to it, but it was not good. And the largest part about it that was not good for me was the fact that you have it's a dual timeline. So the first timeline is the original Sleepy Hollow story, the Disney animated one, and then you have the second timeline, which is like a couple hundred years later, and it's the same exact fucking story. It's the same exact story. Both timelines, slightly different because you do have LGBTQIA representation and lesbian representation, which I greatly appreciated. But it was that didn't really save it because it's the same exact story aside from the lesbian representation, and aside from the fact that Ichabod possesses the in the second timeline, like a couple hundred years later, he possesses that cat's ex-boyfriend's body. He possesses him, and it's like, what was the point? What was the point of that? And my biggest thing was the fact that she had the horseman be a real character, but he did absolutely jack fucking shit. He did nothing. The horseman did nothing. And it's like, what's the point of having Horseman be a real character if he's not going to be actively doing stuff? If he's not going to be actively playing his part in the role? His role in the story. Because it's revealed, spoiler alert, it's revealed that Katrina Von Tassel in the original timeline, in the original story, the original timeline for the book, it was Katrina who dressed up as a horseman to scare everyone off. And it was just like, but the horseman was a real character, and he was like protecting Katrina and her descendants. But it's like, why have him be a real character if he's not going to actively do stuff in the story? And it's like, unless it's like, I could see a way of maybe working in that he's a real character, like a real entity in the story, and him not doing anything where it's like maybe he was like bound to something, like his soul was bound to something, or like he didn't have his horse because his whole image is like that, this horseman, and like he didn't have a horse or something for whatever reason. But it's like he was like, no. I wanted to like this book so much. I did. It was disappointing. I'm gonna move on because I'm beating a dead horse here. But the next prompt is Paltry, a tall book you loved. Magic Knight Earth. Now these are the 25th anniversary editions. I do have part 1 and part 2, but I'm only showing off volume 1 of part 1. Absolutely love these things. Are the tallest books probably. I do have some other tall books, but like actual story content wise, this one, absolutely love this. Excuse me. And in this, because I'm trying to give descriptions, in this, you're following 3 girls, Hikaru, Umi, and Fu. They're all like 14 years old. They're on a school trip to Tokyo Tower, and they're summoned to another world called Severo by their princess to save Severo. So that's what this one is about. Is it a little bit of a dated story? No. Yes, it is. It is not badly dated. It's not dated in a bad way, it's just some of the dialogue is a little rough. So, with all that said, the next prompt is Bonfire, a book you wanted to burn. Now, I can't really think of anything specific, but it's like this one I kind of have is like not applicable because I can't really think of any books that I want to burn. But if I were to have to choose a book for this, it would be Raising the Horseman by Serena Valentino. I'm gonna stop talking about that. And then the very last prompt is Fireworks, a book that has exploded onto the scene. Now, the story itself that this book was based off of, it's something I've talked about. The book is something I've talked about on my channel. Now, what this was based off of has already been very popular on TikTok, but the book itself did explode onto the scene. For Whom the Bell Tolls by J.C. Lynn. And we have book 2 coming up next year, early next year, I think. Bells of Wrath. I'm so looking forward to that. I'm trying to see if I can pre-order the special editions just so I can have matching sets. But in this, you're following Lily, who's recently died of cancer, and she gets her paradise, but all her life she's been told that she's going to be going to hell. And she gets her paradise, which kind of confuses her, but like she rolls with it, and she ends up being drawn to the place that most people would avoid, hell. She goes down there and she sets up a help desk to help the demons filter through the souls, putting her customer service to work and being able to talk back, because customer service, you can't always talk back. You can't talk back. But or like you have to do it in the right way. That you are talking back, but it doesn't. Anyway, that's besides the point. So yeah, and then she meets Belle, who's one of the demons, and that's that. So that is what From the World Tolls is about. I love that book. I love the Hell's Bell series so much. So that is this book tag wrapped up, and I'm tagging anyone and everyone who wants to do this. You can do it in a comment down below, or you can do your own video or your own post. I would love to know your answers, so let me know what your answers are. And if you made it this far into the video, I am going to say do the prompts, answer the prompts down below in the comments, but if you made it this far into the video, A, answer the prompts down below in the comment, and B, let me know what your favorite summer read was. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.